And I can tell you, if they do single payer, it will double down, and it'll be the worst aspects of our healthcare system on steroids, because you'll have nowhere to go. They'll put me out of business and everybody else like me. That's what they want. They want one size fits all, single payer, government driven. And again, who stands to gain is going to be their friends. Because I think those insurance companies that survive, and by the way, you went from dozens to 5 under the Affordable Care Act. So it just contracted, and those that were too big to fail Pac-Maned all the other ones, and the prices went up. If they allow this to go on, you're going to have maybe 1 or 2. It's going to be like Medicare Advantage. They're going to be administering their healthcare system, but they're going to be the ones, even more than they are now, to decide what constitutes necessary healthcare. Your cataract isn't necessary. Your tonsillectomy isn't necessary. Your cancer is not necessary because it's going to cost too much and you're going to die, so we'll put you in hospice. If anybody really thinks they're going to get their nose job and all this stuff done, I got news for you. It's not happening.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We have a returning guest. Dr. Elaina George is an ear, nose, and throat specialist in Atlanta, Georgia. She runs a private practice that has direct relationship with consumers who are contracting with her directly for her services, and she's also an outspoken advocate for patients' rights, health freedom, and reducing the cost of medical care. She's with us this Friday, October 23rd, 2020. Dr. George, thanks for joining us again.
It's a pleasure to be back with you. It's been a while.
Yes.
It's been too long. That's absolutely the truth. We're going to be presenting a recording you did of having me as a guest on your show for our audience as a separate topic about preparedness. But we wanted to circle back with you on your field of expertise, and that's helping people to get the care that they need to stay healthy and what to do when they're not healthy in a way that honors their individuality and their liberty and their privacy and doesn't break the bank. When we had you on before, you talked with us about how people can take charge of their economic aspects and the medical aspects of their health. And you talked to us about a wide range of subjects about getting basically outside the reach of the insurance/medical, hospital, government system, drug companies, and so on. But if we could ask you to bring us up to date on any of the latest developments that you've seen recently, since we spoke about a year ago, on developments in that arena that will help people to get free and break free from that alliance between insurance, hospital, big pharma, big government.
This is the right time to talk about this, and thank you very much for having me back on. This has been a whirlwind, I think, of misinformation about the healthcare system. You know, last time I came on, I talked to you about all these other options and self-pay and patients becoming healthcare consumers. That's where the power of the purse is. And actually, at this point, that's the power of good medical care. We have a two-tier system, honestly. People who want to take control of their health are finding independent doctors like myself who are not on the payroll of hospitals, who are running their own private practice. And we've been decimated, honestly. COVID did a number on us in addition to the Affordable Care Act, but we're still here. And those of us that are here are even more strident about patient advocacy and about patient freedom, about economic power. And under the Trump administration, there's been a lot of nice changes in our favor. And he's been listening to us. We've gone up to Capitol Hill. Colleagues of myself have, and they've made some really amazing changes that give even more power to the patient. There's something called direct primary care. I think I talked to you a bit about that last time. What that is it's a membership that patients and families can join doctors in private practice with a flat fee, a monthly fee, like a membership. One of my best friends has joined one, and she pays $100 a month. And for that $100, she can see her doctor anytime she wants, go for her yearly checkups. Blood work is included. If she needs to have a chest x-ray, if she needs to call him, She's not putting any more money out. It's that $100. Imagine. That's a whole different mindset than paying out of pocket every time you show up at someone's office, or you might, God forbid, you have to end up in an emergency room and pay thousands of dollars for a referral to a doctor as an outpatient. That's the level that it's at right now. So what the government did is it empowered patients with health savings accounts to join direct primary care practices. That's an amazing advancement. So now if with an HSA, you can be like a self-pay patient, and you can pick your doctor, and that doctor can be your advocate, and they're not gouging you. And if you have a little bit of a pain, you're not trying to avoid going because you're afraid you have to spend money. This is the power of healthcare. We should be in concert with each other, doctors and patients. There shouldn't be a barrier between us. The middleman is a joke. The health insurance industry is about denying care so they can keep your profit, or their profit, on the backs of both the doctor and the patient. This cuts the middleman out. This cuts the waste out. This makes the doctor and the patient, puts them back on the same side, quite frankly. And when that happens, you don't need so much medication. You don't get admitted to a hospital. You don't have a complication from a diabetes or a high blood pressure, or God forbid, something you didn't even know you had, because you're not afraid to go and you can afford to do so. And the fact that the government started that process is amazing. Second thing they've done is to give us the same rights to buy medication as everybody else in the world. We've been paying more for medication than every single country in the world. We've been, basically financing their cheap medication. Now we get to be a preferred country. That's going to do wonders for the baseline of medication costs. And I think that most people, a lot of people who have catastrophic illnesses or chronic illnesses, they basically ration their care because they can't afford to buy their monthly medication. So for us, we were seeing people with diabetes medication $200 and $300. The Lancets were, $100, $200, $300. It priced people out. Now it's going to go back to what it was. For me, we used to write, or we have written prescriptions for eardrops for $20. Under the Affordable Care Act, they rose to $250. Or inhalers. It was completely just gouging. So that is going to stop. That plus the patient having power of their own purse. And I think the insurance companies now have competition. You're going to have the ability to use the healthcare system in a manner that is cost effective and user friendly. And the other thing I talked to you about was health sharing ministries, and they have gone to another level. Full disclosure, I just put my practice on a company called Sedera, which is a health, it's a medical cost sharing. It's not Christian based per se, although it has all the Christian guidelines of helping each other, of being honest, of being a decent human being, which I think is the hallmark of any business dealing. But I'm paying less than, a little bit over $1,000 to cover 5 people. That's amazing for a small business. That would have been $2,000 or $3,000 on any other health insurance. And the worst case scenario is all of my employees would have had an out of pocket of $2,500, $3,000, $5,000. When I did have health insurance for them, they never went because they couldn't afford the deductible. Now the deductible is the cost sharing, because it's not an insurance plan, it's $500. And after that, after 3 individual, or I should say 3 entrances into the healthcare system. So let's say you broke your finger, you go once, you have a cold or a flu, you go a second time. After the 3rd time, $500 of your shared amount, it's covered at 100%. So that's $1,500 technically as an outlay from your own pocket to cover anything from a flu to a surgery to needed dental care. Let's say you broke your tooth, something that you're not really ready to pay, something as an emergency. That's a lot different ball game. And I think people can afford that, and they can see whatever doctor they want because they're a self-pay patient. So the power of the purse, if people understand this, and I've said it before on your show and people freaked out, I think, it's cheaper to take care of yourself paying out of pocket than it is to use an insurance plan. They gouge you. It's a whole different system. It's for lack of a better way to put it, it's rigged. They make up the price. It's not transparent. They tell you have to have the service before they can tell you how much it is. Who on earth, anywhere, says, okay, do it to me and then tell me what the cost is? I mean, nobody does that. And we have options now. So this is a wonderful time for people, because I think we're going into the season where people have to start picking insurance plans, etc. If you're young and healthy, if you have a pre-existing condition, as long as it's not, you just got diagnosed with something catastrophic, and you should be in a regular insurance plan if that happens, because it's not one size fits all. But for an average person who goes to the doctor 1 or 2 times a year, who's basically pretty healthy, or is managed and controlled on their diabetes medicine, high plus blood pressure medicine, cholesterol medicine, they're a little overweight, you're not in extremis and you're controlled, this is something you should look into, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. On the other spectrum, we want to get into a little bit, the old saying of an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
Just like, how can people stay healthy versus, so that actually that it makes sense to be going like you're talking about with the not having to have anything other than a catastrophic insurance, so that we keep ourselves healthy?
Well, I think you need to go back to basics, quite frankly. There's something to be said of getting good quality sleep, of eating well-rounded meals, of taking multivitamins if you can't grow it yourself, of being conscious of what you're putting in your body. This is not a joke anymore. Organic is real, and things that are grown naturally and without pesticides and glyphosate, drinking water that's not from a tap, God knows what's in it. I mean, we could name the things. There's, the medication, there's radiation, there's the whatever the hospital throws down and flushes. That's all in your drinking water. And don't forget the major player, which is fluoride. So these are all things that your body is not designed to have in it. Does a great job of keeping you as healthy as possible, but you really have to clean out your diet. You have to reset yourself. You need to detox. And in the age of COVID, your job is to make your immune system as hardy and as effective as it possibly can be. Because if you are healthy, 99% of the people under the age of 50 will recover. 97% of people over the age of 75 will recover. All we hear about is cases, but cases do not equal mortality. Listen to the language, because at the beginning it was the mortality rate. They're not mentioning that anymore. And a case is not the same thing. It's like the mindset of health insurance equals access to health care. No, it doesn't. And it's the same thing here. It's all about language, and they're very good at twisting it and manipulating it and saying it over and over again with a fear factor associated. And it makes people's brains turn off. But, I'm here to tell you, because I'm on the front line as an ear, nose, and throat doctor. My patients have, actually, I've only had one patient who had COVID. And she worked in the hospital and she recovered. And I think I saw a majority of them in the end of last year, because people came in, and we didn't know at the time, but loss of smell, fever that won't go away, cough won't go away. And it was viral, but I didn't know that it was COVID. And I treated them with zinc and vitamin D and selenium and vitamin A, and they all recovered. So use your common sense. If this was as bad as everybody purports it to be, our homeless populations would be decimated. You would have people literally dropping on the street. 50% of us would be gone by now. I mean, this is not what's happening. So let's just do our due diligence and protect ourselves. And you're absolutely right. Your diet is important. Your mental state is important, because if you worry, your immune system actually doesn't work so well. So you have to let anxiety go. I choose God as my source. So I pray. I put my faith and trust in God, and I give that anxiety to something bigger than me. I don't live in fear. You can only control what you can control, and that's what you put in your mouth and how you think about it and how you respond to outside influences. Just critically think, and don't let them tell you what to feel or think, because you have to figure out who stands to gain. And my mantra is always follow the money.
That's a good one, yeah. I was just going to add the L-glutathione is also another good one for the immune system.
Absolutely.
If people are looking for that too.
Yeah, I take it every day, 500 milligrams.
Yeah.
So my little cocktail would be glutathione, vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams twice a day, vitamin D3. I take about 5,000 units because I was a little low, but 2,000 is the average daily required dose. But these are things that actually boost your immune system. Vitamin A, 7,500 milligrams. And so what you're trying to do is, if you do get infected with any kind of virus, you want it to be unable to enter a cell. Right. And if it does enter a cell, you want it to not be able to replicate. So these are the things that will make your body a barrier. Probiotics help your gut become more of a resistance barrier to things like viruses coming through the GI tract. Digestive enzyme, it has lipase in it, which will break down the cell wall. It has a bit of fat component to it. So you can do natural things to make your body unfriendly to things like viruses and bacteria.
Right. Okay.
Circling back to something you mentioned in the last question about the non-transparency of the system, the medical insurance and the system. I had complained the last time we interviewed you about my struggles trying to get information prior to like an iron infusion that I needed to have because of low iron because of absorption problems, and that they could not come up with the estimate beforehand, and I just had to go ahead with it, and I did it, and it got completely overcharged by a factor of 10 from what a local small clinic, independent clinic would have done. But then just this year, no, I knew better. I knew all about that. But I needed some urological surgery, some minimally invasive laser surgery, and working really hard. Again, appealing to them, please, I need to know the cost for the procedure, the cost for the facility, the cost for the anesthesia. It was always...
And trying to make sure the anesthesiologist
was in network. And all this stuff. And no, it's really difficult. We don't have that information. We just schedule. We just plan. We just do this. We don't do that. It's like it's this whole group of related specialists, all their little piece of the puzzle, or that's the story they tell you. But bango, the week after the procedure, the bill started flowing in. Suddenly, they all knew what it all cost that they couldn't tell me the week before. So
see, that's one of the benefits of joining a medical cost sharing organization, because one, you're locked in at your shared amount. So you wouldn't be on the hook for that whole 500. But what they do is come after the fact. When those bills start coming, they contact that medical center, those anesthesiologists, and they negotiate the price for you as a self-pay patient. Because honestly, you as a group, the whole group is paying for that. And we all want the best deal. None of us want to be robbed, but we want to work in concert. And we're using the power of the purse of all of the members. And they'll talk to that doctor, the anesthesiologist, the pathology, and they'll renegotiate that rate. It's amazing how much you can get off. For us, and I'll give you an example for our surgery center. It's an 80% discount for people who come in and pay cash versus the people who use their insurance plan. So they're charging the insurance exorbitant amounts because it's all hidden and let me just explain the system, and I think you'll understand. The insurance companies could care less how much they get charged. They don't care. What it does, it puts them in a position to stay in business, because if it costs crazy amounts of money, people have the mindset of, I have to have insurance because I can't pay for it myself. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're not paying that amount. They're surely paying a lot more than they pay the doctor. I'm going to give you that. The hospital gets 1,000% more than what the doctor gets paid, because they have, they're a corporation, they're big, but they're all working in concert. So if you pay the surgery center, independent surgery center, and they don't pay them the same, by the way. The surgery center would get maybe $8,000. The hospital would get $80,000. The insurance company might pay 70 of it, but see, it's just not for the same procedure. So it's a system that is built on graft and built on non-transparency, because if you don't know what the cost is, you can't complain. But thank God, again, the administration now is putting it out there beginning of the year that everybody has to put their prices online. So that hospital can't rip you off for $4,000 for an MRI anymore when the freestanding radiology center charges $400, because anybody worth their salt will be looking and saying, I'm not paying that. And that means the hospital can no longer have an open playing field. So they can charge what they want. I don't have a problem with that. If they think that their services are worth $4,000, then prove it. But I can tell you that the patient as a consumer will be the arbiter of what constitutes value. And if they want your business, they're going to have to drop their price. That's why they were so against this entire situation. We who get the patient as a consumer have been on the cheap end for years. It doesn't cost me all this much money to see you as a patient. The same price. I've been charging the same price for about 5 or 6 years now. I haven't raised it because I cut out my middleman. So I'm passing along the savings to you. You don't have to wait to see me 6 months. You can see me right away. This is a patient-centered, consumer-driven practice that I have. And I want patients. I want to be the best doctor. I want to give them the best customer service because I have to compete with the doctors around me. You want to have the pressure to be better, not be the lowest common denominator. Who cares if you don't know? You got to pay me because I'm the only one in town. You don't care. It's 5:01. You got an emergency. Go to the ER because I don't have time. It's my business. I'm done. That's not healthcare. And they have the unmitigated gall to tell you should like it. But the patients now have the power, and you have to take your power back, guys. We need you. You don't have to be stuck with crap and like it. You don't have to have somebody walk in and out the office door and not even look in your face and write a prescription. You get what you pay for. And that's really, the onus is now on the patient. Because I'm here to tell you, thank God, that you have an option and it's better and it's cheaper. You just have to find it. You can go to my website, Dr. Elaina George. You can email me through that. I'd be happy to give you information. aapsonline.org is the independent doctors' version of the AMA. These are the doctors who feel like I do in every single specialty. They take cash. I barter. I don't know if anybody else does, but I also barter. So there's a lot of ways that you can get the best health care and be referred within our system. And it's about time. 3 minutes or I think 7 minutes now on average for a typical doctor. My average is 40 minutes. So it's a whole different ballgame.
At your suggestion last time, we ended up joining a health sharing ministry, and it's been a great thing for us. I was able to get those bills for that procedure covered by other members. And wanted to just one more note before we move on, and that is these direct primary care arrangements that you have with your patient, also the health sharing ministry costs, until now have not been payable. You mentioned out of health savings accounts, HSAs, but also out of health reimbursement arrangements from corporations, like for self-employed people or small businesses. They weren't either, but the new IRS ruling, and I'll put the number of it for this year's 2020. They've been seeking feedback on that, and it looks like they're changing. Their final ruling is going to include the ability for people to use either HSAs, HRAs, or possibly FSAs to pay for the direct primary care arrangements and for health sharing ministries, which really does help people to get that freedom that they didn't have before.
And the employer. So I can pay my employees. I can keep hiring people. I won't get dinged because I want to do the best for my patient, or my employees, and then I can't afford it. So I'm paying a couple $1,000s per employee as a small business. That's a huge hit. That's just coming out of your bottom line. Now I can give them raises. Now they can go to the doctor. This actually levels the playing field between the big corporations and the mom and pops and the small business owners, who really are the majority of the people who hire in this country. We are. And we're finally getting respected. And it's going to be a huge difference that we can keep our employees, that they can be well taken care of, that we can hire more people. That's the key. I don't want to see any more Amazons come down the pipe. They're not helping anybody, but we are. So it benefits everybody if we're all healthier, if we're well taken care of, if we have jobs. That's only a good thing, in my opinion.
Right, and I think the point you're making is, the election is coming, and it sounds like, in your opinion, the current president has made a difference for us to be able to choose, whereas if somebody else gets in, we may be out of not being able to choose.
I can tell you it's going to be the difference in some instances between life and death. I remember before the Affordable Care Act passed, we were able to take care of our patients without being, I don't know, basically we're put upon as physicians. I don't work in the hospital anymore, but I do know, and I've worked as contract labor, as locum tenens, and it's a different mindset. They have whole sections, whole diagnoses. For example, when you're writing your order, you have to admit, under the Affordable Care Act, you had to admit the patient under the right designation: outpatient, inpatient, observation. If you didn't put it in there the right way, then the patient would be on the hook for the bill. And it was arbitrary. I mean, you would have to be almost half dead to be considered an inpatient. So I had patients tell me that they had a bleeding disorder. They had really complicated medical conditions that were, in the old days, would be inpatient. You can't treat this as an outpatient. So people were being discharged before they're ready to go. They had to be discharged and not be readmitted for 30 days. What happens if you have COPD or some chronic disease that you have exacerbations? Well, the patient was on the hook for that. If you didn't admit them the right way, they were on the hook for all the hospitalization medications that were ordered. And this is really bad for Medicare. Nobody talks about this. They took out over $700 billion from Medicare to prop up the Affordable Care Act. Who suffered because of that? We had people on comfort care. They spent money. They actually would pay a doctor to talk about end of life, but not give them their hip replacement. And then they had a whole section called comfort care, where literally they would just put you in hospice when you didn't need to be there. And I have a talk radio show, as you know, and I have a guest who comes on who's an anesthesiologist, and she said at one point they were discharging people from hospice because they really weren't hospice patients. I mean, this is how the healthcare system got totally screwed up. And they want to just talk about one thing, pre-existing conditions. They don't know what they're talking about. Why don't they ever ask a doctor? These are all people who don't know anything, trying to put fear into people to vote a certain way. Pre-existing conditions have always been covered. You pay more for them under the Affordable Care Act. Your premiums are higher. Your out-of-pockets are higher. That's what happened. Everybody's out-of-pocket went higher because they jury-rigged the system. You cannot have 25 and 24-year-olds on their parents' plan because you take the healthy people out of the population. Who's left? It's the people who are older and sicker, and therefore everybody had to share the risk. So they weren't honest about lowering the cost. It was never going to be lowered. And as a matter of fact, it went out of control. And I can tell you personally, people told me that they stopped having health insurance and they went to the ER for all their health care, and they didn't see a doctor. So we skewed it. We made people less safe. We made them deny themselves care. And who got rich? It was the insurance company collecting a premium and then having a patient say, well, I'll just wait to get this done because I can't afford it. Well, they just pocketed that. This was a boon to the insurance industry. And I can tell you, if they do single payer, it will double down, and it'll be the worst aspects of our healthcare system on steroids, because you'll have nowhere to go. They'll put me out of business and everybody else like me. That's what they want. They want one size fits all, single payer, government driven. And again, who stands to gain is going to be their friends. Because I think those insurance companies that survive, and by the way, we went from dozens to 5 under the Affordable Care Act. So it just contracted, and those that were too big to fail Pac-Maned all the other ones, and the prices went up. If they allow this to go on, you're going to have maybe 1 or 2. It's going to be like Medicare Advantage. They're going to be administering their healthcare system, but they're going to be the ones, even more than they are now, to decide what constitutes necessary healthcare. Your cataract isn't necessary. Your tonsillectomy isn't necessary. Your cancer is not necessary because it's going to cost too much and you're going to die, so we'll put you in hospice. If anybody really thinks they're going to get their nose job and all this stuff done, I got news for you. It's not happening.
Right. Yeah. The one positive thing that we've seen, and maybe it would be taken away too if a different person gets in office, with some new options of self-directed care. You talked about it, and we discovered, during the whole COVID thing, I guess it's run by 2 doctors. It's called Restore, and they're in different...
Hyper Wellness Clinic, it's a national chain.
And you can get cryotherapy, and if you get a membership, like you said, it's cheaper. So we've got the hyperbaric oxygen, and then before we had to take a trip, we got high-dose vitamin C IVs with glutathione, actually, and B vitamin. And awesome. It's really good, and I think that's really a promising thing that's happening, is that there are some places to go now where you can get some of this. Yes, you are paying out of pocket. It's not going to be covered by insurance necessarily, but at least it's another option. And, like you've shared your options, which I think is so important for people to be able to see, a doctor like you and having that choice. And it's much more cost effective. And
it is.
So anyway, on a personal note, that seems like it's a really good, positive thing to be happening, and hopefully that will continue.
Well, the fact that it provides another option, then people have never had that before, and you're actually treated as a valued customer, and you come in, it's like,
it's very different.
Here's the benefits of what we can provide, and if you know if your doctor already suggested you might try something, or you're working with a nutritionist who's suggesting you should try something, whatever, you can just work. They do have some screening. You go through some safety screening with the nurses there, and then you call and talk to a physician's assistant to make sure that this isn't going to contraindicate any of your existing conditions. But as long as there's no contraindication, you can get some therapies that can really help your well-being and your wellness rather than waiting until you get sick. But you really are treated with respect.
Right.
Well, you want health care. You don't want sick care.
Right.
And as long as we have choice, and that's what makes this really awesome, because it becomes the power of the purse goes back to the patient. So what they decide is medically necessary and important. No one's telling them they can't have it. So that allows you to do, different modalities. I love hyperbaric. I love, carbon C60. I'm a big fan of, there's a lot of ways to treat you, and not everything fits for everybody, but you need to know that there's options. Right. And this system, if it comes online as a single payer, it becomes very powerfully driven by the pharmaceutical industry. They will get rid of any alternative. It will become illegal or something that they can knock out that choice, because they want you on something, more than something, every day for the rest of your life. That's what they make their money on, let's be honest. Does it cure you? Never. It just manages you. Right. They don't want you cured. They don't even want you to not even get sick. So if you understand that, then it gives you a real different mindset on nobody should have the power to control what I put in my body, whether that's a vaccine or a pill, and nobody should take my choices away. It's my choice. If I want to try something completely alternative, then I should do it. Who are these people to tell me you're too stupid or we don't know? You don't have the right to control your body. It's illegal for you to do that. I mean, we should be up in arms with that. That's the hallmark of liberty. If I want to make a bad choice, then I'll make it, and I'll live with the consequences. Personal responsibility, right?
Right.
But at least I have it. But this is not making people better overall. It's not getting people healthy, and it's costing everybody more money. If you really want to lower healthcare costs, let's get people healthy from a cellular level out. And those that aren't, let's teach them or give them the option, or at least let them know, hey, there's another way to do this. If you choose not to, that's fine. But this is it's not going to work. It didn't work the first time. So doing something again, expecting a different result is silly. And you can't go back. If they go to single payer, they will kill the healthcare system. They're already doing wonders at that right now. Medical schools don't have enough medical students in them.
Wow.
They've gotten a lot of, or raised the status of, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it just is, nurses and physician assistants have become the front line of healthcare, but they don't have the same type or the same level of training. You can't do this with AI and robots. You need the personal touch. And once you lose doctors, it took me 10 years to train. 4 years of medical school, 6 years of residency, and now 20 years of practice. God, I feel old. But you can't just replace me if I leave. How does that get? I mean, I've learned a lot. I've done a lot. I've seen a million, feels like a million patients, and that's a good thing. But if you lose us, then by definition, healthcare changes. And how do you get that back? Our mindset is do see one, do one, teach one. If we're not there to teach the people coming behind us, then they're on their own. And that's patients who are going to suffer because of that.
Well, that's good. I don't, this kind of ties in with, when you're talking about the pharmaceutical companies kind of taking over, and I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but I actually suffered from a thyroid. I have low thyroid, so I was taking a natural
thyroid supplement.
And now I can't confirm or not confirm, but this is an all-natural supplement. It sounds like the pharmacies want to take control over that. Anyway, all that I was taking was called Nature-Throid, got completely recalled. And I was miserable for months, anxiety, and I didn't know what it was. Finally got my thyroid checked, and sure enough, it was thyroid. And now I'm on it's Armor, which is also natural. But it seems like the natural thyroids have been, I don't know if they're being picked on by the FDA or if it's just some fluke, but all of them have had some issues.
And national recalls
this year.
Yes. RNC Labs and Nature-Throid and Armor and NP have had recalls. And if you don't find out about that, that's why we're trying to get the word out here. Is you can just feel like
I was miserable, and you had weight gain, obviously.
Cold temperature and brittle hair and all the things falling apart again. Thought it was terrible allergies. It wasn't. It was the thyroid medication was not
or
effective.
The stress of the whole lockdowns and things.
We were blaming it on all those other things. It turned out your thyroid medication was recalled and we didn't know about it.
We didn't know about it.
That's really tragic. But on a separate note, actually, there is a silver lining with COVID, because we're bringing our manufacturing of our medications back to the United States. Because it was all coming out of China. They recalled Zantac, for example, because it had carcinogenic ingredients in it. Their pet food is questionable. I mean, now that we're going to be creating or remanufacturing back in our country, then we have some control. So from the standpoint, because people do need medication, I'm not against it.
Right. Sometimes
but I don't think you do, but not everybody. They would like to have 99% of us on something.
Exactly.
But it needs to be made here. It needs to be standardized. I'm really happy to hear that Puerto Rico, once again, is going to become a pharmaceutical manufacturing capital that it used to be. It got all outsourced.
Wow.
And it's not safe. Why would you want somebody who hates you to make your medication? And maybe some of that Armor Thyroid and all those supplements may have been coming out of China. You're not sure. Or some of their ingredients, and maybe it did need to be recalled.
I think you're right. I think one of the desiccated part of the thyroid medication, I don't know if it was the
porcine thyroid.
I think did come from China. So that's very interesting thought. I'm not sure on that, but I think so.
I wanted to
give a
personal testimony about the vitamin C IVs, which is one of the modalities that's available through the Hyper Wellness Clinic that we mentioned, and that is that I had. They thought it was almost pneumonia almost 2 years ago. It was January, almost 2 years ago. And
I think the story, too, to start, one of the things we did, which is unusual, because they said if your fever doesn't break, you need to come and get a chest x-ray. And we are lucky enough that we built a sauna in our home, and I said, we're going to really raise your temperature, and we're going to get this out of you to get your temperature to break. We went in the sauna and he got his fever really high, and then by the next day the fever broke. But
after I got better, I still had this crackling sound. It sounded like Rice Krispies at night when I was laying on my side at night starting to sleep. I could hear that when I breathed in deeply. I could hear that crackling sound for a year and a half, and it never ever went away. Then prior to some travel recently, we went and got our high-dose vitamin C IVs at the local Hyper Wellness Clinic. That we just go in and say, hey, we want this. And they said, okay, well, as long as there's no contraindication, we got it. Nurse administered it. And we went down into another state, came back, and I thought, wow, maybe that other state really did me well. And my wife said, we've been there 4 times this year. This never happened before. This is the first time. And I realized, that's the only thing that was different, was I got the high-dose vitamin C IV, and now I have perfectly normal breathing. That crackling is gone. So
it is amazing.
Yep.
I mean, not really that amazing, because we know these things work, right? We know that vitamin D helps boost your immune system. C helps kill viruses and boost your immune system. Everything you mentioned, glutathione is an antioxidant. C60 is another antioxidant. Selenium is really key for your thyroid to work.
I take it, yeah.
Excellent. Iodine, we're iodine deficient because they took it out of the salt. and they replaced it with another, I think it's bromine? I think it's bromine, but it's one of the halogens. So the thyroid thinks it's like a fluorine, and it incorporates it. So there's I'm seeing hypothyroidism rampant in my practice. And if you replace the iodine and tell them to take selenium, copper is really important. That's another one that we don't have enough of.
Yeah, we take
magnesium. Yep. So you need to replace all of these cofactors and supplements so your body can be, I honestly believe it's self-healing if you get out of the way, and detox. And I've seen it work. I've seen it work with myself. I've seen it work with my mom and dad. So I'm a big fan of it. And for physicians, I think, especially those of us who are coming to the natural side, is always something that's happened to our family member or to us. And medicine, the typical didn't work, so we had to think outside the box. And that just opens up a whole new door. And there's something else that I actually have discovered, and that's the water that we drink. There's something called easy water or deuterium depleted water. It's intracellular, and it has an extra hydrogen, and it gets released, and so it's charged, and so it's able to go through the intracellular fluid, which I found out is the biggest organ in the body. That's the fluid that circulates around the cells, between the tissues, and it is a dumping ground for toxins and waste. Fat is another one. But I found and learned recently that the easy water is able to penetrate the extracellular fluid, interstitial fluid, clean out, or magnet, and then like a magnet, pull all the waste with it, and you're able to get it out of your system. And I discovered a company called DiviniaWater.com, and I've been drinking it for maybe about 6 months now. I feel completely different, and I think you guys may want to try it.
Yeah.
I've lost weight when I'm not even trying. I don't have tenderness if I touch any part of my body. It used to be a little sore when you touch. That's gone. I feel energized. The inflammation is completely broken. I'm a big fan of the keto diet, and so I use the keto strips, but I really haven't been doing it. But I started to test again, and I'm actually alkaline, and I'm not even working at it, and it's based on the water. So you can eat healthy. You have to clean out what came before, and that's a hard space to get out. It's like lymphatic drainage and all that other stuff that people do with lymphatic massage, but you actually have to mobilize the waste, and that water does a fabulous job. There's an aquaphor that all cells have, and water can't get in if it's not charged. So you can drink all the water you like, but you're just peeing it out, but it's not medicinal. Okay. This is a different way of thinking, and I actually did a show with the creator of it on my podcast. People should check it out. It was amazing, and that's what turned me on to it. But it's an engineer who created the water, so it's 14 stages of filtration. They strip it to zero. They take everything out, including the radiation. And then when they oxygenate it, the oxygen molecules create this, they're clumped in a way that makes them bioavailable, is a better way to put it. And so it's not any kind of water you've ever had. You will really feel the difference, I have to say. And I feel so strongly about it that I actually became a distributor for it in my office, because I want my patients who have fibromyalgia and all these chronic diseases to start thinking a different way about clearing their system. And I can vouch for it. So
if you send us information, we'll put in a link in the description. People
actually
can
send you
follow.
a few bottles so you can test drive it yourself.
Oh, that's
so that
great.
way you can see. So after the show, let me get your address so I can get it out to you.
Okay, sounds great. Then, so for people who may want to get the Divinia water, is it? Mm-hmm. Do they contact you or so that?
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
Now that I'm actually a distributor, it's the same as getting it off their website. It's no different in the price. It's just coming from our office.
Great.
If you live in Georgia, you can just come on by and we'd be happy to do it. You don't have to ship anything. But the office phone, just so everybody knows, is 404-591-9100.
Great.
And you can also email me at Dr. George, Peachtree ENT Center @gmail.com, and I'll send you that link if you want to put it up on your site.
Great.
Well, Dr. George, it's been too long since we've spoken with you, and this is what people, I get so fired up about this, because when you talked about us being able to take our freedoms back and our liberty back, and who are they, the powers that be, to tell us that we can't get access to the proper attention from our doctors, and that who are they to tell the doctors that they have to be beholden to this system that only really exists to feed itself at our expense, both financially and our health.
You said that. I couldn't have said that better. I also wanted to let people know about my podcast, if that's okay.
Yes.
Please.
It's Living in the Solution, and it's on iTunes and Spotify. And you can also listen to it live on the weekends on Saturday and Sunday at 12 noon Eastern Time. And if people want to look into Sedera as their another version of medical cost sharing, they can go to sedera.com/control your health. And the telephone number is 1-855-998-8075. And ask your questions, because you don't know what you don't know. But this may be something that you're like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. I can tell you personally, I feel I'm covered. I'm not worried about something, God forbid, happening. I don't have to worry about having my pocketbook completely stripped. I'm paying $500 if I get any incident, up to $1,500, and I'm done and I'm covered, which makes me, I'm not worried about that. We got a lot of things to worry about, but that's not one of them. And as you take off the things that trouble you, you're just going to live a more healthy, full-bodied, well-rounded life.
That is so true. Very true.
Well, there's a lot of links that we're going to need to get from you, because there's about half a dozen here, and I don't have them all spelled correctly, I'm sure. But we've been speaking with,
them.
Thank you, speaking with Dr. Elaina George, independent doctor in
Atlanta.
Yep. Thank you for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Yes, thank you very much.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Take care.
You too.
To acquire gold and silver, just go to libertyandfinance.com. When the main site comes up, click on Bullion Sales. That's libertyandfinance.com, Bullion Sales. You'll see my name, Dunnigan Kaiser, my phone number, and my associate, Kaiser Johnson, his phone number, our email, libertyandfinance@protonmail.com.